Welcome everybody to the November 9th meeting of the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee. Commissioner Allen stuck in traffic. She will be joining us momentarily, hopefully.
I can vouch for that for
It took me-
Same way.
I left early to get here to go over the agenda, and I just barely made it. So it took over an hour to get here from right off 8:40. But I hope everybody got a chance to review the minutes of the October 5th meeting, and if so, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Ely.
Second.
Mr. Jernigan, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We've got a report from the Industrial Development Board, and also we want to start off with the report from Ms. Bolden first, and then we'll roll right into Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority
Yes, sir.
when we get through this report.
I have passed out to the committee members a sort of a synopsis of both the existing pilot agreements that are in place, and then you'll see at the bottom there 2017-18 projects that have been approved, but they're not online, and typically that's because they're still under construction, either or they haven't gotten the equipment in place or some such as that, but I have included the numbers. And you'll see that we've added up the total capital investment for all those various projects and the number of jobs added and the tax revenue generated for the county and the municipalities that those are situated in. I don't really have any particular comment about any of the individual ones, but I'm happy to answer questions about any of them.
Commissioner Schaefer, you had asked for this information, and so
Well,
do you have any questions, or is this
I'm just gonna
in-depth enough
pull
what
one out
you
of the
wanted?
hat and ask you.
Yes, sir. Fire away.
You know, and what it is, the state's had some fun with this recently. I know.
I have
I mean,
noticed.
periodically, we've had y'all bring it up just so we know. And sometimes they haven't made their employment goals and stuff like. But can we just take one on the straight federal mogul in
Right.
2017-18?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so total tax revenue is $6,381,000. If we didn't know, if they didn't do this expansion, can you roughly estimate how much less the taxes would be out there? Because that's what we hear a lot about, you know, you give them all these breaks and all, but if only grass is there, you're not getting near as much.
You're right.
That's what
Commissioner.
they don't
You get
understand
zero.
about it. Yeah.
That's an important point. And I cannot, to answer your specific question, give you an estimate, except you're correct, sort of in the broader picture, that if they don't come, then the additional tax revenue is zero. And in the economic development business, that's how it works. And I can't sit here and tell the committee, but for the pilot agreement, there's no way that this company ever would have done that. There's no way for anybody to know that. But it is a fact of life in economic development that there is fierce competition throughout the country to get these people either to come in or to relocate. And you'll see, and that's a good example of a situation where they're here. And so a citizen might say, well, why would you give a tax break for an expansion if the industry is already here? Well, the answer to that is the other states are still trying to get federal moguls or whomever to relocate elsewhere. So retention is just as important a part of the process as luring them in the first place.
And a lot of these also have plants somewhere else too, that they could possibly put them in there.
And the converse of that is the economic development people here have been successful in getting people that have plants elsewhere to consolidate here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions for Mr. Bolden? If not, we can bring the rest of the group together for the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority Phase 2 Hillwood Development Project.
Chairman, I'll start, okay, but we have a few people here. I'm excited to be with you tonight. As you may remember, back in 2016, there was a pilot project that came before you that you approved with the Hillwood Development Group, which is a group out of Texas. It was one of Ross Perot Jr.'s companies. That was to build 2 large industrial commercial buildings on the Airport Authority property at their sole cost and expense. One of those buildings is now finished, is complete and occupied. They've already created 170 jobs there with respect to building 1. It was a total investment by Hillwood of over $56 million on the Airport Authority property. It was done under a long-term lease arrangement by which the Airport Authority is going to be receiving rent for 50 years and possibly up to 100 years from the facilities there. Plus, at the end of the lease term, the facilities that are there belong to the Airport Authority. So once the leases are up, all the improvements that Hillwood has paid for will become the property of the Airport Authority and stay there for many decades to come. So the project's done well. They have gotten 1 building finished. The other building should be finished in the next week or 2. But we have talked to them about maybe expanding the project and adding some additional buildings there. So they have indicated a willingness to add a 3rd building on the site and possibly a 4th. Between the 2, there'll be an additional $46 million investment on the part of Hillwood on Airport Authority property, and doing it under the same scenario by which we did the first 2 buildings, which would be a long-term lease. And the Airport Authority will be receiving revenue from it. In the first few years, they received revenue about $130,000 a year for lease income that goes to Airport Authority. The Airport Authority is they operate just on the funds they generate at the airport. So there's no tax money that really goes into it, other than they have to live off their own money. So it's important for them to generate revenue sources there on the Airport Authority property. And the Hillwood project helps them secure that future for them. And it's gone very well. And I guess if it's okay, we have John Black, who's with the Airport Authority, who would like to kind of address the project with you guys tonight. And we also have Kurt Nelson, who's with Hillwood, to address any questions you have.
John?
Okay, if I stand over here.
Any certain place to be on TV? But yep.
So, thanks, Jeff, and I'm going to kind of rewind just a little bit back to before we put this together, which was in 2006. And we had laid a lot of the infrastructure and things in place to do this industrial development here. We studied an airport in Texas called Alliance Field, which is Ross Perot Jr.'s project in Texas. So it's kind of ironic that here we are 15, 16 years later that we have partnered with Hillwood, and we found a great partner because I can't say enough about them. They've done everything they've said and gone above and beyond what we expected. And it's really exactly what we had planned for the airport. I think the biggest point I can make is the long vision, and that's what this is all about. This is the long-term vision for the airport, but the long-term sustainability of that airport for this community. We work with the Chamber, we work with ECD all the time and bringing people to Rutherford County. A lot of times this is the first place they see when they come to Rutherford County is the airport. And to make this more viable and to also diversify our tenant base. Of course, we have aviation, we have a solar farm, we have an industrial park. All that helps to level out and ensure the long-term viability of the airport, just like a stock portfolio. So this is a great addition to us. It's a great anchor for this business park, and the long-term sustainability of Smyrna Airport, it just really sets us on solid footing for a long time. So this is kind of how it's laid out. So building 1 is finished. Building 2, as Jeff mentioned, in a couple weeks. We're looking at building 3 and 4 here, and you have a package there on your table. This is building 1. It's very nice. It's been leased out, and the end user is Lowe's. So it's a name brand that we all know and probably shop at. And to kind of give you an idea of where this is in relation to the entire airport, here is the terminal. So it's basically this back section of the airport that fronts Street Industrial Road. And as part of this project, the phase 1, extension to Aviation Parkway, which will eventually tie into our future airport terminal, has been built by Hillwood along with the utilities and infrastructure. So it really sets us up for more in the future. And we've got a lot happening at the airport. We also have some more hangars going up. So we're excited. And this is phase 2 of a very successful phase 1.
Any questions, Mr. Black? Thank you, John.
So there are two resolutions that come before you tonight from the IDB, have already been approved by the Industrial Development Board. One of those resolutions basically approves the partial tax abatement, which allows the development on Rutherford County Airport Authority property be taxed at a certain rate that was adopted by the County Commission many years ago. So that's the first resolution. The second resolution is to approve the lease and sublease of the property from the Airport Authority to the IDB Board and from the IDB Board to Hillwood. And those are the two resolutions that you have on your agenda tonight.
Mr. Chairman, this financing structure is identical to what the commission approved for phase one a couple of years ago.
And this has been through the IDB, just unanimously approved this, I take it.
It was, and as I tell this committee every time I come up here with some sort of revenue note or bond, there is no liability to the county or to the municipality, no money of ours going into it.
Do we need, can we do this in one motion, or do we need to break it up in?
I think it would probably be best if we did two, Mr. Chairman.
I think Jeff's going to present it as one resolution to the commission. Is that how you're writing that? Because that's how we did it in 2015.
We will have one resolution that goes forward to the County Commission.
Right.
And that'll be a different one that you have before you tonight. So
Right.
you've got two resolutions before you tonight. So
Right.
there's two resolutions for the budget to approve tonight. One, which approves the grant of the partial tax abatement structure, the way it was done previously with Hillwood of phase one. The second one is a lease and sublease between Hillwood and IDB.
Any further questions or motions from the committee? Personally, I support anything John Black approves.
I'll make a motion on the first one that we approve the partnership with Hillwood coming in onto the land there, and the tax rate or abatement as it has been since the first one.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second.
Schaefer, and a second by Commissioner Bond. Is that wording of that fit what you need? Oh, and
I'll work it out.
any questions or discussion? If not, call the roll.
Mr. Allen?
I'm going to abstain since I missed the discussion.
Spitz for Smyrna.
I don't want to be accused of not being informed, so I'd rather abstain.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Okay, and now we need the other half of the equation, if anybody's willing to make that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P. Second, Commissioner Jernigan. Any further questions or discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Abstain.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you very much.
Keep holding, keep bringing them up to us and
Yes, sir. I'll
create
do my
those jobs
best.
out there. John, thank you for everything you do at Smyrna Airport.
Appreciate it.
We're ready for the investment report. We appreciate you other gentlemen being with us tonight. Mr. Beatty, welcome.
Thank you.
They just created 1,000 jobs. What are you going to do for them?
Thanks, guys. Well, I'll just say, as we reported last time, we are in our first month of tax collections, which have gone well. As you know, we are collecting for the town of Smyrna. That has gone extremely smoothly. Minimal calls. I expected more calls just because it's different. And I don't think we've had any negative comments and lots of positive comments. So that's worked out very, very, very well. So we'll just keep bringing in the tax revenue, Commissioner. That's the best I know. Our rate through LGIP is 103 basis points. We did have one bid this month that went to Franklin Synergy for 1.48% or 148 basis points for 1 year.
Mr. Beatty, is that the LGIP rate, is that down from last month?
I believe that's up just a little bit. Up 3. Yeah, it was 1.
Okay,
Yeah,
it was one last time, okay.
Right.
Thank
So
you.
Franklin Synergy beat their own standard rate, which is 26 points above
Yeah, it's
1.03, I
1.2,
think.
yeah, it's 1.29, but for the year, they did the 1.48. They've been very aggressive. We had, again, several bidders. They just happen to be the best. And so, who knows, we keep talking about a rate increase in December and none next year and 2 more next year, and who knows, we've been in a really low cycle, most of the time I've been here. We were getting 5.5% the first year or two, but I want you to know I had nothing to do with that drop, not my fault. But it is but we're at least not, I think we saw LGIP drop into the single digits at one time.
Any questions of Mr. Beatty? We'll entertain a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Fee.
Second.
Commissioner Ely. Further questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank y'all much.
Ted. You have a good evening.
Thank you, y'all too.
Fund condition report, Ms. Nolan.
Okay, I'm going to start with development tax. In October, we received $209,250, bringing our year-to-date total to $1,638,000. It compares with last year at $2,059,500. It's a little behind, but we only budgeted $3 million for the year. On our cash balance report, cash at the end of October totaled $205,923,000, with $174,083,000 being operating funds, $31,840,000 being borrowed funds. You see some negative balances, cash balances, but we've been a little busy this week. We did have a sale. Now, I did put this in front of your table. We had, I think, was it 10, 2, 4, or was it 2, 4, 6, 8, 9? We had 9 bidders. Mine has highlights. I don't know where yours went. I'll give you mine back. Okay.
There's an extra down there, somebody did.
That's yours. That's yours. 9 bidders with Vicero, I'm guessing is how you pronounce it, financial, at 2.6718. Our rating from both agencies, S&P and Moody's, remain the same. However, S&P did downgrade our outlook from positive to stable, but our rating is the same. I mean, it didn't change our rate, it's just the outlook. And I think that had to do with a lot of what's coming. Of course, we disclosed to the agencies what the building program looks like with the schools, and based on, I think that was a big factor, and the fact that our per capita income is not as nice as our neighbors has a component to that too.
Only Williamson County has a thing.
Yes, we were, I was really, really disappointed because I was really hoping that maybe that we would have a shot this time too. Get to AAA.
All that being said, Williamson County issued some bonds about a week before we did,
Yeah.
and their rate was,
Our rate is better.
our rate is better. It was like
Yeah.
2.71 or something. We were 2.62.
Yeah,
9's a lot better, isn't it, for what we're...
That's about
Yeah.
typical.
we usually have 10, 9, 10, 11, but yeah. I mean, it's good, and you can see how close they were, you know. So, and I gave you a second sheet that just tells you all the, it gives you the kind of total cost, and then just reminds you what we borrowed for. So we plan to close the 28th of the month. So when we come back next month and you look at this cash report, all these little negative balances will go away because we will have funded those projects then. On the revenue review, I'll just kind of hit just a couple things. The points that I'm trying to make in the general fund, the increases, when you look at the particular lines going to the last 5 years, it's our the fees and permits and other local revenue dealing with building is what has really, exceeded our budget projections at this point. Sales tax countywide is a 4.3% higher than it was last year. For schools is what we've estimated. We've estimated that at 5, so, but this is only for 3 months reporting. So there's really nothing that screams that there's a problem. I mean, I always like to see that the percentage that we are compared to the prior, always, if that's higher, I feel good about our revenue numbers. And that's what we have right now.
Any questions, Ms. Nolan?
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Second.
Mr. Schaefer.
I got one other item that I forgot to tell you, that when we budgeted for the debt service fund, I had to estimate what we thought that the interest payment that we would have to make based on this borrowing we borrowed in the fall. We'll have an interest payment in the spring. I budgeted $1.5 million for that, and after all this was said and done, it's $1,025,000. So we'll have a positive swing because of that in the debt service fund.
It's equivalent to most of a penny right there. It helps.
That's my report.
I'll make Mr. Baum happy. He's smiling at me. We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We're ready for our risk management finance report. Ms. Street, welcome. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, so we can start with Fund 264. Ending in the month of October, revenue came in at $6.2 million compared to expenses of $5.6 million for a difference a month of $627,000. When we look at calendar period year-to-date compared to prior period showed revenue of $50.3 million compared to current year of $54.2, with expenses coming in at $56.5 million compared to current of $54.1. On a fiscal period perspective, prior period showed revenue of $14.5 million, with the current at $15.3, and expenses coming in at $23.7 compared to current of $21 million. When we look at the 2017 calendar year revenue versus expenses comparison, we are trending positive at $165,467. On a fiscal year perspective, comparing revenue to expenditures, we are $5.6 million to the negative. I can also share with the committee results from the 2018 annual enrollment. We had this year a total of 6,213 employees who are eligible to participate in annual enrollment. We had 48% that did not access the system compared to prior year of 7.5%, leaving with us over 2,300 that did not complete enrollment but were enrolled in the 2017 benefits period. So we saw a substantial decrease in participation of enrollment going to a passive arrangement. We did see an increase in participation of the copay plan and a decline in the deductible plan, and we saw increased participation in the HRA. We saw, from a percentage perspective, we had a decrease of 16% on the deductible plan. We had 11% increase on the HRA plan and 15% on the copay plan. So that puts us well over 50% of all of our employees participating in the HRA beginning of 2018. If there's no questions, I can move on to Fund 266. And in the month of October, year-to-date, we're at $400,106 compared to prior year of $155,137. Also have the legal expenses information for you. Ending in the month, we came in at $17,446 compared to prior year of $92,074. And these are only those paid to Hudson Reed and McCreary.
Any questions of Ms. Street? I must say I'm a little disappointed in the enrollment numbers. You know, the percentage. But,
Yeah.
you know, it shows you can force people to do things, but if you just stop forcing them, they just kind of quit all over again.
How does it count it if you go on there and it says you didn't make any changes? Do you want to hit the button and say, I don't want to make any changes? I know I went on there just to look at it and. and
So it
does
counts
count
when
that
it
as a-
submits to administrator. That's when we
I didn't know
know.
if it counted me as going on.
So if you just
or-
window shopped, we could tell that you did that, but it
No,
wouldn't
I
count
actually went
towards the
through,
total.
but I didn't make any changes, so it told me, you have not made any changes. Do you want to not make changes for the year?
Yes,
And you hit
then that would
button.
still count,
Yeah.
yes, because that's
Okay.
still a submittal to the administrator that you've gone in and you haven't
That
made
looked
any changes.
Well, when the W-2s come out, it's going to show you have to send that out that they don't have insurance, right?
Well, they will have insurance. The benefits rolled over beginning in 2018. So anything with the exception of the flexible spending account would roll over from current election in 2017 to 2018.
So that was the design that the passive enrollment was,
Mhm.
to just leave them alone as is?
Correct, right. The only thing that was a potential to be lost was the FSA. Yeah.
And you'll get those calls later.
Yeah, when the premium increases start coming out of payroll, yeah.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Jernigan? No further questions? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jerk?
Yes. Thank you, Melissa. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Now, general fund budget transfer for Paul's. Mr. Gregory, welcome. How are you tonight?
Doing well.
Fine, thank you.
There are three different things moving money around within our budget. The first one, we're requesting to move $6,000 from our overtime line, to our overtime line from our attendant line.
Michael, they have the employees first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. That's what happens when you go back to paper. The first one then is we're requesting to take two part-time positions that we have in our as vet assistants and move those into one full-time position. We had the part-time position filled for just a couple of months, have searched for folks, really weren't getting any applications that amounted to anything. Doc has requested this, and we brought this to the mayor and got his blessing before we brought it to you all. There is money within the budget to cover the benefits and everything based on the other position remaining vacant.
What about for next year? Will there be enough money to roll in without an increase, or?
I think by the time we took the two positions, I think there was about a $4,400 difference over the benefits that we would be looking at for a full year, if I recall from the
Next
figures.
year.
Mhm. Those figures came from, I met with Sonia and she went over those figures with me.
Let's see, do we want to take these together, or do they need to be separate?
They can be together.
We got it. If you want to move on, explain the next one, then.
All right. Going back to the other one, it was to move money in from our attendant line to our overtime line item. As I expressed to you all before, due to vacancies and folks on FMLA, we are going through overtime at a rapid pace. And then the other part of that is to move additional money from our part-time personnel over to our veterinary services line item. There was money budgeted in our part-time personnel for a veterinarian. That veterinarian asked to be a contract employee versus a part-time employee. So that's just replenished money there to be able to pay them.
Motion to approve the request.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Commissioner Ely. Any further questions or discussion? This is the motion on both pages, correct?
Yes.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Michael. Got a request for additional funding for Siegel High School addition and related general purpose school fund budget amendment.
Good evening.
Director Odom, Mr. Sandvik, welcome.
This is the budget amendment. You approved the Siegel High addition. And I'll kind of read you our discussion. The school board voted to add alternate one for a lecture amphitheater and additional classroom to Siegel High addition for $1,440,000. This alternate is included in R.G. Anderson's bid. So we're asking to transfer the $1,440,000 from the general purpose school unassigned fund balance so that these shared funds can be used to internally fund this part of the Siegel High addition project until Rutherford County goes to the bond market for the secondary education funds. At this time, this $1,440,000 would become available for K through 6th grade projects. General purpose school unassigned fund balance is $30,188,139, or 8.275% of the 2017-18 general purpose school budget. School board requests that the county commission increase the construction budget for the Siegel High addition project by this $1,440,000 and use this $1,440,000 transfer to internally fund the shortfall for Siegel High addition construction contract. And the motion we had was to transfer this $1,440,000 from the general purpose school unassigned fund balance to the building program fund 189 in order to internally fund alternate one for Siegel High School addition construction contract, to ask Rutherford County Commission to increase the construction budget for the Siegel High addition by this amount as presented.
We discussed this in Health and Ed, and just to remind everybody that it is common practice for Mr. Carty to include
Alternates.
multiple things inside of a bid just to see how good would the price come in. So it's not as if they tried to sneak something in. It was just, this came in inside a reasonable price, and so it's more cost effective to do it while the folks are on site. And it also, in this case, it directly impacts the design because things will have to be.
It's foundational, so you
Right.
have to start it very early in order to get it in at that point. Another question that came up, what other buildings do we have? Lecture rooms in Oakland, Riverdale had them all along. We came back and we did the addition back when high school. You added one there. Stewart's Creek High School has it. Rockville High Design will have this lecture room also. It's pretty common, very similar to what MTSU would do with summer where you have a larger group of students for those type of classes. So.
What's the approximate, how many students can you get into a lecture?
This one's, most of our lecture rooms will hold around 100, so when you cluster them together like that.
One teacher?
Well, you use these for more special classes. You still have to make people teacher ratio on a regular class, but it's used more for those cases where you're doing special presentations, where you're doing activities like that.
So you can't.
Gives you flexibility. You could put one class and one teacher in there if you wanted to, teach a class that way, but still, you still have to make people teacher ratio. It's an enhancement would be a better way to say it, probably.
After these projects, will there be any portables at Siegel High any longer?
I hope not. That's our intention. Depends on the growth, I guess.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen.
Second.
Commissioner Baum.
Are those rooms, do they have any electronic enhancements or?
They do.
You know, I know
they-
MTSU had like a multimedia where you can answer
Not to
questions.
that degree.
They are presentation type rooms, so you have a large screen projection or something like that. Some of them have tables that you can even do chemistry experiments or something for a large group, so that sort of thing. But it is a presentation. Typically, your chairs have not just the seats like you might have in an auditorium, but would have fold-up desktop or something like that where kids could work, take notes, that sort of thing. So.
Any further questions? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Look, this afternoon, we're up into the third month, last day, third month, 1,200 students. That's over the same period last year.
And what's your grand total?
44,833, I believe it was. And that's just your K through 12. You have, for some special educator to 22, and you got some under 5s that you have to carry by law, and some few preschools.
What's the approximate amount of the cities?
City, 8,000, so I don't know the exact figure over 8,000.
Talking 52,000 kids.
Yeah, we passed
Counties.
Chattanooga by ourselves, by the way, because I asked the other day, they're somewhere in the 42, 43 for Hamilton County, and so Rutherford County itself, without the city, is now larger.
Wow.
Yeah.
They've all moved here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We've got a general fund budget amendment for archives.
I'll do it.
And you're being Mr. Lovell, Brian, I take it.
I am. This is just recognizing the grant proceeds from the Tennessee Library and Archives for a grant that he applied for. It's for $2,500, and it's to purchase shelving.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P. and Commissioner Ely. No questions, call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Got a special purpose fund budget amendment for the sheriff's office.
By myself.
Uh-oh.
Welcome, Preble, how are you tonight?
Good, how are y'all?
Fine, thank you.
I don't have one amendment.
Right, you do
We'll
this
talk
one.
real slow then, so they understand.
We're requesting funds from DEA restricted for public safety in the confidential account and other capital outlay, which will start the fencing around the new building.
What are the wishes of the committee?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. We've got a general fund budget amendment for finance/sheriff.
Yes, and this is
So
one.
which one of y'all's doing
Well,
that?
I'll do this one, and it relates to the 2018 Tennessee Highway Safety Office for the Teen Driver Safety Grant. The grant was already approved, and there was no matching, but this just puts the revenue and the appropriations into the budget. Total of $18,650, and it is for overtime, training, and some supplies.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P. Commissioner Jernigan. No further questions, call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you, Preble, you have a good evening.
Y'all too.
We've got a general fund budget transfer for juvenile detention. Ms. Duke, welcome. How are you tonight?
Good, thank you. All right, we're going to be moving, we'd like to move about a little more than $6,800 from within our budget, it's not new money, was money that was set aside for the GSA maintenance fees that we're not using because the clerk's office got the TENSYS program. But what we really would like to do is get 4 semi-rugged laptops to replace the 3 barely hanging on ones that we currently have. And I'll answer any questions that you have.
We don't want just completely rugged laptops. We just want some
I love
semi-rugged
rugged,
laptops.
but they're quite a bit more expensive.
Okay.
Is this for your staff to use or for students to use?
No, it's for staff. It's what they use the jail management system on. And so if it's used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And OIT came down this week to work on one of them, and he was like, God, you need some new laptops, because they didn't even, you couldn't even get them to, you had to, be very
You got a
gentle.
rubber band you twist around.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen.
Second.
Commissioner Schaefer. Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
We've got an amendment to state health contract and related general fund budget amendment.
Okay.
You handling that?
Yes, sir. This is the amendment to the state contract, bringing the contract up to $2,618,700. It also includes $100,948 for tobacco money. But the amendment, this amendment that will match our county budget to this grant document will be an increase of $132,381. And then it goes for medical personnel, related benefits, and then a reduction for other supplies, materials, and an increase for other charges of $95,000. And includes, the amendment adds one full-time person,
Where does this person work out of?
the health department.
And we were given this money because Ms. Garrett had demonstrated such success with tobacco money in the past, so.
It's a different methodology of how they're giving it to us instead of giving us all the money at once.
Right.
That takes us forever to spend it down. They're handling it through the state contract this time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Jernigan, any further questions or discussion?
Yeah, maybe I didn't ask my question. Is this educator just in the facility, or do they travel around to the schools or anything like that, or to the other health
I think it's
facilities?
just in the facility,
I
but
think it's just a health department.
I'm thinking it is. I don't think it's a moving one.
Okay.
Although they do a lot of community outreach with their staff anyway, so it wouldn't be uncommon to utilize health department staff to reach out to when they have those specific projects. But on a regular basis, I think they're based at the health department.
Well, I thought they might be going to some of the senior centers and things like
I
that.
don't think she mentioned
No.
that.
Oh, I don't know.
I think what Commissioner Allen alluded to, if I remember correctly from Health and Ed, they got this money because they were so successful
Right.
up to
For the
date
other two
with the
parts.
things, so they gave them some more money, where some other counties might not have got additional money because they weren't as successful, so they're doing great things over there. Any further questions or discussion?
So
Call
this is
the-
the amendment and the amendment to the budget and amendment to the grant contract.
That was the way the
Yeah.
motion was worded, I
That's
believe.
exactly right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Call the
Commissioner
roll.
Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yeah.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. We've got a highway fund budget amendment. Mr. Brooks, welcome. If
Good
you're in
evening,
trouble
everyone.
getting here in the traffic, you can talk to your local highway superintendent about it.
Actually, everything was going very well until I got to the city limits. I have for you tonight kind of a rare budget amendment for the highway department, but it's an increase to our equipment line. We recently had an auction of surplus equipment, most of which was inoperable. But we did also sell a road reclaimer to a county in Alabama that was quite valuable. So we were able to increase our equipment line item by $142,500. That's the combination of the road reclaimer and the results of the auction that we had, surplus auction that we had. So it's an increase and an increase. Just full disclosure, we're going to take that, we've taken that money and we're going to use it to purchase a Caterpillar motor grader from Thompson Machinery. That was voted on at the board meeting Monday, and everyone approved of that decision. So with the $142,500, we've just got to add just a little bit that's already in our equipment line item. We won't have to transfer any money from anywhere. We can purchase the grader. Should take us well into the future. The graders we have now are a 75 model and a 78 model. They were refurbished in the late 90s, but that's still unfortunately been 20 years ago. But
It says this is a new used grader.
correct, that is correct.
How used is it? approximately?
It's a 2007 with 4,200 hours.
Has your mechanic thoroughly researched this piece of equipment?
He has, as you well know, he's I have to actually kind of bounce any purchases, any equipment purchases off him. But no, this purchasing used equipment is something that back in 2010, Tennessee Code Annotated was amended to allow highway departments to do that, based on an appraisal. And we sent an appraiser down, and this machine was in Alabama, and they appraised it, and it appraised for over the amount that we're paying for it. We could have purchased it according to the TCA code if it had appraised for at least 5%. The purchase price could have been 5% over the appraisal, but that's not the case. So.
And a new motor grader would cost twice this?
Well, actually, a new motor grader would cost, yes, twice this. However, currently there is a really good deal on state contract. So a new motor grader would have cost, I didn't bring that, I think it's $242,000, because that's a 50% discount off of list price on a motor grader on that state contract, which is phenomenal. But we're paying $165 for this one, and I feel very good about it. This grader is a 2007 model, like I said, and it doesn't have as much electronics as the new ones do. It still operates in a manner that our operators are accustomed to dealing with. So
You have to be a NASA scientist to work on this one.
well, or to run it, to operate it. They're getting more and more complicated all the time. No question about it. But this grader should take us, well into the future.
Well, in the 1970s, what was a motor grader called?
What was it called?
Was it called a motor grader?
It was. It was.
It's not a road grader then?
Well, it made its model. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan. Second by Commissioner Schaefer. Any further questions or discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
I do have a quick question before we take off. With that recent flooding, we really got slammed with some water. Were there any outstanding problems on the roads other than normal flooding situations?
Well, as is often the case, the flooding was more localized. That we have had, in 2010, we had widespread county flooding. This event that we just had was kind of north of Murfreesboro. Smyrna got hit really hard, Laverne got hit really hard. So those areas were more impacted than some of the southern part of the county. Just a quick glance at the topography of this county, and you see a lot of closed basins, bowls, if you will, that once they fill up, once it rains so much that they fill up, they just have to either permeate into fissures, cracks in the rock, through the dirt, into the soil, or they just have to evaporate. And so when we have that amount of rainfall over a 24-hour period, everything fills up. Our streams that are a lot of times normally they're dry. They don't have any water in them. They become raging rivers. So it's just part of the price we pay to live in such a beautiful county. But there's just nothing really. Some things we can work on. When rains like that happen, how much you want to know? When rains like that happen, this time of year, with all the foliage falling, all the leaves and everything, a lot of times it makes it worse, because as you know, a large amount of leaves in a drainage culvert will just completely stop it, and we had quite a bit of that this time because of the time of year that event happened. So
I will say there was a water rescue out on Sulphur Springs Road.
That area right there is,
But your guys had already been out there and put a high water sign,
They
if
drove
not a
around.
road closed sign, and this car drove around that. And so by first thing that morning, the highway department had been out, put it in the middle of the road. It was plainly marked, and this person drove around that sign. So, you know, I can't complain about you guys at all if y'all had just ignored it, hadn't been there, you know, but you'd already come and gone, put your sign up, middle of the road, and they drove around it, so.
Somebody just thought, well, Jordan, put that down there for the heck of it.
Yeah.
well,
It was all over local weather too, that you got to see it on, I think, it was either 2 or 5 is where I saw it.
they're both.
Yeah.
Driving a small sedan and decide to try and drive through a 3-foot water, that's not gonna work. Maybe if you're in a monster truck, but it's not gonna work in a Ford Fusion or whatever this was.
Well, I do wish people would be a little more cautious because, you know, for the highway department, putting the signs out, that's not a lot of effort. It doesn't require a lot of effort. You know, we disperse, go in all different directions. But for our emergency responders, it's life threatening to have to go out there and rescue these people. You know, and by the time they get out there and they get flooded out, and they can't go any further, then they have to wait on rescue to get there. And by the time rescue gets there, the water has, you know, risen, and it's dangerous. You know, so I wish people would reconsider and just not drive into the water, regardless of whether there's a sign there or not. You know, we shouldn't have to have a sign to think for us. But
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
thank you. Is that it?
Thank you. Are there other business?
Mark is going to take this.
Oh, I went ahead and prepared, we normally vote on this in December, and we'll bring it to December, but we thought that it would be a good idea just to hand this out to you, that way you can be looking at it. We'll kind of show you the 2 different methods here. Normally, the last 2 pages is what we give you, but I decided to go ahead and put it on a calendar with all the other meetings. So if you're on other committees, you can see how much fun the month of May is going to be for you all. But this is kind of what we've got it laid out right now. Just some points that we normally hit, the 15th and 16th of May and the 21st are the 3 meetings we'll have to review most of the general fund and the other departments. 22nd is when we're trying to look to do our joint meeting with health department, our health committee, and then come back on the 23rd and discuss the schools budgets that we reviewed on the 22nd. Commissioner Schaefer, on the 28th is when the public safety meeting is supposed to be, and of course that is a holiday, Memorial Day, so your committee might want to look to that and see if you want to reschedule or just cancel that meeting. And then we'll come on the 31st to propose the budget for public hearing.
In publication.
Yes, and June the 7th is our regular meeting. June the 12th would be our public hearing. 13th, come back and discuss any comments from the public hearing. And then the next week kind of is still a little fuzzy, where the public safety and health committees are scheduled to meet on the 25th and 26th, and you see those arrows. We would like for those to be moved, that way we can consider that business in the final budget meeting of the year on the 21st, and then come back on the 26th for the vote with commission. So that's just kind of suggestion that Lisa and I have after looking over how the days fall in the week, and it's always different a little bit every year since the calendar moves around every year, and just trying to go ahead and get those 2 committee meetings in on the 18th and 19th as opposed to the 4th Monday and Tuesday of the month.
And then we're not tied to, we've done that meeting to adopt the budget. We've just been all over that last week, so really wanted feedback from y'all where you would want to do it.
Right.
So if we change those two on the 25th and 26th, can we have it on a Monday then? Or what? Or are you proposing for the?
We could do it Monday. I mean, that's kind of what we suggested this
We always
time.
did for a long time on a Friday or a Monday, didn't we?
Right, but I
This
think
last year.
Commissioner P might have had a
Conflict
change.
for me on Mondays. I gotta take
Yeah, I
a
think
vacation day.
we changed it last year to Tuesday, so.
And I
that's
think
why
it
we're
worked
proposing
well.
that. Yeah.
Monday's kind of, I would rather not be on a Monday personally.
That way you gotta remember to come from same Monday morning.
And then,
After over the weekend.
Yeah, I gotta wake up, yeah, no, I got somewhere.
It's hard to
8 o'clock
do that,
Mondays,
too.
or I've got a thing I do, but I can
Okay.
work around, but it's fairly important.
but I mean, Tuesday works for us too, if it works for y'all.
When you retire, you just, I guess, reschedule your golf day, right?
So this is the suggestions, and then the third and fourth pages are kind of the same information, but the third page is all of our meeting dates. We're actually having meetings, and then the fourth just puts in the time schedules for the various department heads to turn in their budgets and things like that. Just to give them some deadline dates as opposed to actual meeting dates for this committee. But this is kind of what Lisa and I just thought we would present this to you this month. That way, if you had any suggestions, you could give us a call over the month, and then we'd have it ready to go and for the December committee meeting to be able to present to you for vote.
I like the way Mark handed it out because it does help y'all look at it and say, oh my gosh, this week is going to be terrible.
So we're gonna take this under advisement for this point in time?
Well, I guess
Yeah, we'll vote on it. We'll bring it
We'll do
back
a
in
vote, but
format and advertise it and everything in December. We just, if you got any conflicts or got any suggestions for changes, just give us a call, shoot me an email, or we can talk about it right here, either one. And if
I'll give everybody a chance to look at the
Yeah.
calendar and
yeah,
stuff. and,
well, you can look at it. Got a
or
suggestion?
can we
Get it to
kind
me.
of leave it adopting on the Tuesday unless y'all look at your calendars and decide something else? But that's kind of, this is, I think, what we'll be presenting to you unless we hear back from you.
What about the property management meeting on June 28th? Will they have anything that could need action by the commission? I'll let the mayor study on
We
that.
don't know.
I mean, because there won't be another commission date until August.
They could, if
Well,
they
actually,
could
your
move
new
to
commissioners get
Wednesday,
sworn
We
in,
can move it
so
up into the previous week somehow.
If you needed to, yeah.
to that Wednesday.
that's something you might want to look at because something could get hung out to dry.
I know planning is on the 25th. I didn't put it on this calendar because, but 25th of June is a planning meeting, so.
I mean, that's something we could pick up though if we needed to.
Well, everybody has a month to study this.
Just give me a call or shoot me an email if you have some suggested changes, and we'll get those plugged in.
Anything else coming for us tonight? Any fish fries, pancake breakfast, anything this week?
And breakfast is coming up on the 18th of November, so that's another, not this coming Saturday. but
You'll get to
next
plug
one.
it at full commission
That's
next
right.
week. All right.
That's right. So we'll start early on this one.
Okay. All right. Well, if nothing else is coming for us tonight, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.